If you're feeling trapped on the fretboard, I get it, I've been there too, and I believe there are a few practical things that we can do to massively level up our confidence on the fretboard. In this lesson, I'm going to show you my 3-anchor way of thinking about the fretboard that sidesteps tons of scale patterns and gets straight to playing blues up and down the neck. Let's dig in. Let's get to work in the key of A. We'll start with an open A7 chord as our first anchor. It's a familiar shape that will give us a comfortable starting point. Plus, we get all that open string goodness working for us in the open position. Let's see how we can leverage this position for licks and phrases that are absolutely perfect for acoustic blues. Let's use this voicing of an A7 in the open position as our anchor. Now let's start by adding a note that is perhaps the most classic blues sound that we can do. It's the minor third. The major third is here, the C sharp on the 2nd string, 2nd fret. It's part of an A major, it's part of our A7. If we drop down 1 fret, I'm going to use my index finger to play the 1st fret, C note on the 2nd string, then we get an A minor. In the blues, we often mix those two, so it's a perfect way to start exploring tones outside of our anchor point here. But we can keep going. Even on that 2nd string, we can reach up and play the D note, 3rd fret, and incorporate that into our lines. Again, thinking of this A7 as the anchor point. Let's move up to the 1st string. We already know we can play that open. But we can also drop the little finger down and play the G note on the 3rd fret. Right? And we can also take the G that's open on the 3rd string and play that fretted at the 2nd fret for our A note. We know that works because it's an A, right? And so now we've got a fair number of notes here surrounding this chord shape. We know we've got the open 3rd string, the A, the 2nd fret 3rd string, then we've got our minor 3rd, our major 3rd, and even the 4th, quite a lot packed on that 2nd string, and then our open 1st string for the E note, which is the 5th, and then the G note, which is the flat 7. What we just did was overlay the notes of the minor pentatonic scale, A, C, D, E, and G, over our A7 chord shape. It gets you in the game. It puts the bluesy note choices right under your fingers using a chord that we're already playing. If you want to master this approach in other keys, check out the Fretboard toolkit. You can grab it at the link in the description. It includes my Cage 7 pentatonic system that shows you exactly how the different 7th chord shapes map to the pentatonic patterns so that you always know where those bluesy notes are. But now back to our study here. We can just thump out an A bass or play with a backing track as you need to and noodle around using these notes. Try landing on different notes, but focus on the top 3 strings. That's really plenty to get you into the bluesy game. Let's see a quick example of what we can do with these few notes. All right, cool, but there are more notes that sound good right here in this position. We can add just 2 notes for a fuller sound. Let's check that out. By adding the open 2nd string, B, and the F sharp 2nd fret 1st string, we now have the notes of the Mixolydian scale, which is perfect for the blues. And the beauty is we're not learning big scale patterns up and down the neck. Instead, what we're doing is we're letting the chord shape be our anchor, and with our anchor down, we can kind of fish all around it without thinking about scales. We just focus on the sound that we want. And the cool thing about this is we can then pick up our anchor and move to a different spot, like the next position for A7 that we're going to take a look at. All right, let's move our anchor up the neck to the next useful position, the Kindhearted Shape around the 5th fret. This shape may not be as familiar to you as our open position, but if you tried your hand at Robert Johnson's Kindhearted Woman Blues, you're going to know this one. It's very useful, it sounds great, and it moves us into a different section of the fretboard. But just like our open position anchor, we can hang some notes right around this shape too. Let's take a look. This voicing of A7 shows up quite a lot in Robert Johnson's Kindhearted Woman Blues. It's very useful. We got a lot of ringing strings here and a lot that we can do in A. And it has the same notes as what we have in our open position. They're just rearranged, and it gives us a really cool option here in the middle of the neck. So let's take a look at the notes that we can use and hook it onto this anchor point. First up, on the 4th string, we've got our G. If we come up, we've got an A, right? So if we played this, that's an A major triad. This just gives us the heart of an A7 here. All right, so there's our A. If we move up, we can play that minor 3rd C at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. And then we already know the major 3rd is a half step above that, and the 4th is a half step above that. So we get this really cool move here, just like we did on the 2nd string in the open position. And if we shift up to the 2nd string, we've got the E, which was under the chord right here, the 5th fret, 2nd string, and then we can come up and play the G, that's the flat 7 at the 8th fret, and then the A on the 5th fret, 1st string. And we can also reach up and play the C, 8th fret. Around this A7 voicing. All right, now we've got our minor pentatonic scale in 2 different spots on the fretboard, which gives us some options. Let's hear what a minor pentatonic bass lick can sound like in this position. Now let's add those same Mixolydian color tones to create a fuller sound. So now we can add the 2nd of the scale, B, and the F sharp, which is the 6th, and we get that same Mixolydian flavor that just adds a little bit something extra to your sound. And one of the cool things about this position is it's a great bridge from the open position to the next position we're going to cover much further up the fretboard. Our final anchor takes us to this triangle shape up the neck, and it gives us access to that higher register, which is a perfect complement for that thumping bass line that we do so often in acoustic blues. We can bring our A7 to a different voicing up the neck here around the 9th fret. I'm on the 3rd string 9th, 2nd fret 8th, and then the 1st string 9th. And I like to think of this as a triangle shape. It just makes this little triangle when you're looking down at your fingers on the fretboard. And this is another one that is really useful in the blues. So let's map out some notes around this anchor around this triangle shape. We'll just leave the 3rd string here at the 9th fret and move up to the G note on the 2nd string, and then the A on the 2nd string. That's 8th fret and 10th fret. So really just this little move here on the 2nd string. But then we shift up to the 1st string and we have that minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th move here. So just like we did here and here, we've got the 3 in a row here, just in a higher register. Remember, if you want to explore these anchor positions more deeply, check out that fretboard toolkit and check out the Cage 7 system. Link is in the description below. But up here in this register, those bluesy notes really take on a new character. They're brighter, they stand out, and it's definitely a spot that you want to incorporate into your blues jams. Here's an example lick featuring just these notes that will get you going. And that lick really featured the minor pentatonic scale. And remember that you can add in those Mixolydian color tones, the B and the F sharp, both at the 7th fret, just on the first string for the B and the 2nd string for the F sharp. Here's an example that teaches out a little bit more of that minor and major third, that classic blues sound on the 1st string. Practice each anchor on its own. Really get to know the position and relate the notes that you're playing back to the chord. And when you're ready, you can pick up your anchor and move to the next one and the next. This will open up the fretboard for you like almost nothing else while staying near a familiar chord shape. We'll call that a win. And here's an example jam that I came up with that moves through these 3 anchors in a blues progression. Now, premium members, you're going to have access to the PDF, the Guitar Pro, and the interactive tab player for this performance. Just look for lesson ID TB490 in the library. We've taken a look at 3 anchor positions for blues in A, but having these positions is really just the beginning. We need to be able to move smoothly between these positions to keep our phrases from sounding disconnected and choppy. So watch Tuesday Blues number 465 next to discover the approach that helps unlock the whole neck. I'll see you there. Until then, practice smart and play on.